Um, so good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good to see you again. Does it show from your side that is a recording?
Yes, I see it recording.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you so much. So it's good to see you again. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about another section of our proposal, which is the justification. The justification section. Sorry, I need to move this. Oh. So the section is entitled The Justification of Your Study, with a reference to relevant and recent literature. So after you have identified the problem, we saw last time how important it is to know the problem, because if there's no problem, there's no study actually. So so now we need to justify the need to do the study. So I put here, you can see on the screen that this is where you sell the project, right? This is where you do the marketing of your project. This is where you convince the readers, the funders, the reviewers, in our case, the people that are the faculty, the government, if you're looking for tender from the government. This is where you have to convince all these different potential stakeholders of the need for the research and the need for them to approve it or to give you their money, yeah, to do the research. So just think of it that way. So I put here in the second point that first impression in everything matters, all right? And from an academic perspective, something that matters most is how you present your project document. I'm not even talking about the content yet, the way you present it. So I put here, you do not want to put the readers off. So take care of your language. Pay attention to all grammatical errors. Remember, we are in an academic environment. Even if we are not in an academic environment, people get pissed off so easily if you submit your project for funding, for example, and it's full. You may have brilliant ideas, but if basic things like grammatical errors are not, are everywhere in your document, so give priority to short sentences. All right, let me add this. So let me add literally quickly. So literally, welcome. So first impression matters. You don't want to put the readers off, so pay attention to punctuation. You see, I put punctuation in a bold. Again, some of you will say, oh, but this is too basic for us. But these are really critical issues that we find, we complain about when you submit your. Okay, let me add Camo. Camo, welcome. So pay attention to punctuation. You see, like I said last time, just let me remind you that whatever I'm saying here, they're not necessarily things that you're going to see in the book, or you may see in the book, but no one will write a book and insisting on you paying attention to punctuation because it is taken for granted. All right, but so it's more based on my personal experience since I've been working with students on project, even at this level of master and post and PhD. You see a paragraph without a single sentence. You can see in between, inside the paragraph, you can see capital letters, small letters. There's no comma, there's no punctuation at all. And you know with me, you agree with me that it's so difficult. So I'm admitting, Vanessa, it's so difficult to understand what you are saying if there's no punctuations. Another thing is ask yourself if your sentence actually makes sense. Your sentence may make sense to you, but ask yourself if the way I put it here, anyone who is not in my mind, who is not reading my mind, will the person understand what I'm saying, what I'm writing? So pay attention also to consistency in everything, including the references and your writing style. Avoid misleading or false statement. So students in general, I mean, some of them, I'm not generalizing, will think, oh, this guy, I can lie to this guy, he cannot say he know all the literature, but someone who may, you can get away with it sometime. You can get away with it because, of course, nobody knows all the literature out there. But there are times where your supervisor or whoever is reviewing your papers, if it is a paper, is aware of the particular literature that you are talking about. Yes, hello? So if you make a false statement, if on just one statement has been identified as false, then the whole document now become questionable. Just one mistake in terms of false statement, just one mistake identified, then the whole document will become questionable. So pay attention to false statement. So avoid quotes. This is also another very important thing that we see often. So I will give some example, right, to illustrate all these things at the end. Avoid quotes by all means, unless it is necessary. Quote must not be everywhere in the document. So some believe that as long as they put some statement, they copy something from somewhere, and they just put it in between an inverted comma, it's no longer plagiarism. Point number one. Point number two, something like they want to hide, I won't say the limitation in terms of writing by simply copying something somewhere and put it in inverted comma. And you can if it is even once in passing, that may still be fine. But you see it everywhere in the document, everywhere in the justification of the literature review section. You see everything is according to so and so, inverted comma, boom. You just copy something somewhere, just paste it. You put a full stop at the end. The next sentence is also about a quote somewhere. No, just avoid that by all means. You may quote someone somewhere, but it must be when there's no other way. There is no other way. Or to highlight something in passing, you may do that, but it must not be everywhere in your document. All right. So another point that I want to highlight here is ask yourself about the logical flow. I think we talked about it last time, between two consecutive sentences, between two consecutive paragraphs, from your first statement to the last statement in a paragraph or in a document. Just to think of I mean, ask the question of whether the flow is there. The flow is there. Because in this particular section of justification, it's like you want to walk your son, your kid, you want to show him around in a park, right? There are different steps. You take his hand and you show him around. There are different steps that you don't want to miss. You don't want him to miss, right? So you must step number one. Nobody will teach you that. You conceive it. So I'm going to talk about it with some example toward the end. You conceive your line of argument. My argument number one to justify this project will be this. My argument number two, Vanessa is struggling to get in. my line of argument number 2 will be this, will be that. It's up to you to define that. Nobody will teach you that. You sit carefully, you are already identify your problem. You identify the different step to demonstrate, to prove your point, right? But just make sure that from point number 1 to point number 2, there is a logic. There must be a reason why your argument in point 1 is point 1, not point 2. So to do that, and I strongly believe that making use of linking word is extremely important, because it helps whoever is reading your document. It's like you holding the hand of that person, moving him around. So linking word play that role. Word like however, in addition, nonetheless, furthermore, consequently, as a result, firstly, secondly. So it's up to you, based on your line of argument, to identify the most appropriate linking word to connect the different point that you want to make, right? So I'm going to the next slide, and I hope you are seeing it. And I'm saying here, in the problem statement section, what we talked about last week, you already identify the problem your project aimed to address. So in the present section, the justification section, you want to build a set of arguments. You see here on the screen, I put it in bold, and I even underline it. That's how important it is. You want to build a set of arguments to convince someone that, yes, the problem that I identify is truly a problem. And point number 2, we need to do something about it. It's a set of arguments that you build on your own. Nobody will teach you that. Again, that's what I was saying earlier. Nobody will teach you that. It's you who identify the problem. It's you who think of the arguments that you need to put together to sell someone, to sell your idea, your project to someone. So this means that you have to take your time to think critically about the following question. How am I going to convince people that I'm right about my problem, the problem that I identify? How am I going to convince someone that I'm right? And this means that you have to define what I call the trajectory of your argument, meaning what will be my first point, the first point I want to make, what will be the second point I want to make, the third one, and the last one, the last point I want to make in the justification section. That's one, no one will teach you that. You and I, or all of us here, we may decide to work on the same project, and we're going to justify the problem in different way, using different arguments. And what will be my argument number 1 may not necessarily be, and I'm 100% sure will not be your argument number 1. What is your argument number 2 may not be my argument number 2. So it's up to each of us, right, to think of the logical flow, the different argument, and how I'm going to, the sequence of those arguments, right, to sell a product, to sell something, to sell your ideas. So to do this, your understanding of the problem that you identify, your understanding matters. My understanding matters. We won't use the same sequence of argument because we have different understanding. We may have different understanding of the problem. And our understanding depends on, 1, your basic knowledge of how the environment functions. Remember, we are in the environmental field here. Your basic knowledge of how the environment functions. That is how all aspects of the environment are integrated. And this is the objective of the coursework, what we did in semester 1. Someone introduced air quality issue, biodiversity issue. Some will talk about legal issue. Others will talk about water issue. So your understanding of those different sectors or sphere of the environment, how your understanding matters here will play a role in how you're going to set your argument. And to justify the study, you may need to raise the implications of the problem that you have identified on various sectors: air, economy, biodiversity, human communities. So that's what I call your understanding of the problem matters. If you think that your problem, the problem that you have has only one implication, maybe because it's the water, it has nothing to do, it has no connection with communities living around that river, it has nothing to do with air pollution, it has nothing to do with biodiversity. If you don't understand this integration, then it means that there may be, I mean, your justification may not be strong enough. So by bringing different aspects into the scene, your argument may become strong, right? And point number two, in terms of understanding, your personal experience also matters. Your experience from work, of your observations of what's happening around you from an environmental perspective. And more importantly, your knowledge of the literature. This is where you showcase of your knowledge of the literature, because you don't want to just speculate. You don't want to speculate. Nobody will buy your argument. Nobody will buy your project if it's only full of speculations without any support from the literature. So nobody will believe you, or nobody will take you seriously if your claims are not supported by science or existing literature. That's why the section is actually called Justification with a reference to literature. So it's not a comprehensive literature review. Please bear that in mind. This section is not a comprehensive literature review. There is a chapter in your dissertation that you will call literature review, where you will showcase of your knowledge of what's happening in the literature, but that's not, so this is kind of summary, quick summary that you tailor toward the justification of the project. So to justify your problem, the point I want to make in this slide, to justify your problem, it depends on your basic knowledge of how the environment functions. It depends on your personal experience, and it also depends on your knowledge of the literature. Knowledge of the literature is actually to support the first 2 points. Whatever claim you are making because of your knowledge of how environment functions, because of your personal experience, you want to back it up. You want to back those claims up with what's happening in the literature. All right. So these are different points to take into consideration when you are writing your literature review. Now, I want to give here an example of, like, I mean, what I said is a short discussion. So I want to give here some example, right, of what we receive, what I receive. I'm talking about me, what students send me. And I believe that we must avoid that by all means. So I put here, I say in this slide, I say talking of literature. Here is an example of literature review from student. So a student, right, first paragraph, Yusufu et al. 1995 investigated the impact of climate change on rural communities in Limpopo. This was done in 1995. They used a qualitative approach, that is, there was no quantitative measurement. They sampled 243 respondents composed of 56% female and 44% male of all age. They found that female and the youth are most affected by climate change impact. That's paragraph number 1 of the justification. In the same document, in the same section, paragraph number 2, Fanteso et al. 2000, that's a different paragraph. Fanteso et al. 2000 conducted another study in the Northwest Province. This was done in 1999 and published in 2000. They also used a qualitative approach. Their sample is 50-50 male to female ratio. The total number of respondents is 300. They found also that female and youth are vulnerable to climate change impact. And they have a third paragraph, that is a fourth paragraph with the same style. And the last paragraph read, Ngobeni 2019 conducted another study on climate change impact in KZN. The method is quantitative. They use a small sample of 50 respondents with 45% male and 55% female. 123 questions were asked. They used student t-tests to analyze their data. They found that there was a significant difference in the youth perspective of climate change impact as compared to the elderly people. Brackets, they put the p-value. So you see something like this. And I believe that if you are very familiar with writing, you will really say, but this does not make sense. And I have here at the bottom a number of points of concern concerning the way this justification section is presented. First issue, the author did not make a clear connection among paragraphs. You have paragraph number 1, it starts with an author. Yes, all blah, 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 did this, did that, they use this method, they sample so many respondents, the composition, male, female, they found this and that. Another paragraph, same style, same approach, without a clear connection between those paragraphs. And another point of concern here is that you have, each paragraph is about one author. It's about Yesufu et al. 1995, another one is about Fantaso et al. 2000, another one is about another author, another one is about Ngobeni. Each paragraph is about one author. No, you don't do that. And several paragraphs repeat same ideas or same finding. Such paragraph must have been summarized into only one. If you have 5 authors who conducted similar studies on same topic, and they reported the same thing, the same finding, why are you making them 5 different paragraphs? Why are you making that? Because there are 5 authors, they conducted 5 different studies, and you're making each paragraph the story of one author. And what is the point of telling us which method they use, what is the sample size, which statistic tests do they use, what is the ratio male-female? The question is, how are those information important to justify your own study on climate change impact? If you tell me Katarina did this, she worked on 45 respondents, and Dlepu worked on 245 respondents. So how important are those information? How important are those information for you to justify your own project? Like I said last week, unless your project is about discussing about questioning the methodology that people are using out there. Again, the student who did this, that was not the problem he was trying to tackle. Unless the aim of the study is to question the validity of the conclusion that are reported out there based on the bias in the methodology that those authors use. If that's the case, then it may make sense for you to emphasize so much on the methodology, the sample size, and the statistics they use. Maybe, but if you are all simply looking for argument to back up your own, you don't need to tell us what method they use, what is the sample size. What you need is the finding, the result of those studies. How are you going to put those results together to justify your project? That's what matters here. Avoid things like a paragraph one author, avoid that by all means, and avoid this style that I put here from paragraph 1 to the last paragraph. And this is another case. You see a problem statement or a literature review that starts Like, according to Yusufu et al. 1995, and the student open bracket, open inverted comma, climate change impact contribute to 46% loss of people's livelihood in blah, blah, blah. Another paragraph, according to so-and-so, a quote, if nothing is done on how we address the impact of climate change, the future doesn't look great for local communities. Last paragraph, according to so-and-so, children are most vulnerable to the impact of climate change. Also, there is a significant difference in the youth perspective of blah, blah, blah. No. Remember what I said in 2 slides above, and I said in the justification section, you want to build a set of arguments. You want to build a set of arguments. And like I said, nobody will teach you what your argument should look like. It depends on, like I said, your own understanding of the problem, your own understanding of how the environment functions, and your own understanding of what's happening in the literature. Those understanding is your understanding. And based on those knowledge, you build your set of argument. Now, when you identify on a piece of paper the different argument that you want to build, then you look for literature. You look for what the literature say to be able to back up, to support each of the point that you want to make. You make those decisions. You decide, my argument number 1 will be this to justify my study. I need to tell the readers, the first point I need to tell the reader is this. The second point will be this. And the second point must be a logical, there must be a logical flow between the first and the second point, and between the second and the last point, and the third point, and so on until your last argument. So it's like you take the hand of the readers and you are showing him around. But before you show, if you receive a visit and you want to show him around, you already, before the visitor come, you already decide in your mind, this will be the first point, the first place I'm going to show him. This is the second place I'm going to show him. And this is the last place I'm going to show him. There must be a reason why you want to start where you start. There must be a reason why if you want to impress someone, you decide you want to impress someone. It's up to you to decide the trajectory that you want to take the person through, right? To convince the person, or to impress, to get to the result that you want, right? And when you draw those points on a piece of paper, then you go to the literature and say, oh, what does the literature actually say about this point? What does the literature say about this point? And you don't just support one argument by only one author, because it means that you don't know the literature. It means you don't know the literature if in a paragraph you have only one author, because in this section, or the literature review section in your full dissertation, you want to showcase your knowledge of the topic. Now, to do that, if you have, you need to look at different authors. What do they say? Some will support your argument. Others will reject your argument or will use a different perspective. And how are you going to put all those stories together to justify your own project? That's what matters. Remember, you're identifying a gap in the literature is also important. But if you just say, Yusufu all did this and they found this, but what they found is actually the opposite of what so-and-so found. And you don't just report, it's not just a report of what others say. Now, when you compare like that, an example, when you compare what 2 authors say and they are contradictory, now your own personality come in now. You don't just say, Dilepo found or reported so-and-so in KZN, and then Fanteso reported this, and these 2 results are contradictory. You don't end there, because you need to come in now. You need to come in to tell why they found different I mean, they work on the same topic, they report different finding. Why? What could be the potential reason why they find is it because the method is wrong? Is it because the communities, I mean, the finding is community specific? You need to come in now to tell. And by coming in, that's when you are identifying the gap. That will lead you to the gap, and then you don't just identify a random gap. You identify the gap toward your own project, a gap that where I mean the gap that your own project can fill. Sorry, all right. So it's not a random exercise. Everything that you're doing, you have to tailor it toward your own project. So my suggestion here is that don't do what I put here. I see it a lot in student report. Now, what I suggest that you do is, if you remember what we said last week about problem statement, if you have 4 different paragraphs for a project or 3 paragraphs for a project, in the justification, you have to go back to those paragraphs, different paragraphs, and elaborate more. In the problem statement, you don't elaborate. But here, you can use the same flow of argument that you already started in the problem statement, and then build on those line of argument with more information, more details. Of course, you will add. You cannot have all the different potential section or paragraph in your problem statement, but now you can simply build on the different paragraph that you already have in your problem statement. But you don't copy paste, of course. You don't self-plagiarize. But the argument, the line of argument that you already set, because we can already sense your line of argument in your problem statement, your problem identification. Build on that with more support from the literature. So I put here in the next slide, I think I also put it on Blackboard. I can provide the PDF on the WhatsApp group. Just go through it. It's only one slide, one quick document, a summary of what I mean, what you have to do, what you have to avoid when you're writing. And I already last week or 2 weeks ago, I already put a more comprehensive document on what to avoid when you're writing. I put it on Blackboard. I hope everyone got it. So don't forget about this slide. This slide does not really work here. It's more for the literature review in your own dissertation, not in the proposal. I forgot to remove it. But something also very basic, and this is where the story ends. Something also very basic that I want to highlight here is this last slide. I said, never forget, never forget. Some of you may laugh, like, oh, how are you talking about so basic things to us? We are doing a master degree, not first year or something. But you will be shocked if I show you things that students write. You must not forget that a sentence starts with a capital letter and end with a full stop. Don't forget that. And in your sentence, you must have at least a subject and an active verb. I'm not the one teaching you that. If you feel insulted, no, don't feel insulted with me highlighting things like that, because that's what's happening. You have a sentence. You have a sentence that starts with a capital letter that ends with a full stop, and there's no single verb. There's no single active verb in that statement. But if there's no verb, there's no way no one can understand what you want to say. The message in that statement, nobody will know what it is. I give you one example below. Look at the second point, the second bullet point. See, I put it in inverted comma because it's from a student. Construction, I'm reading it. Construction companies continue with conventional building due to factors that may include cost, expertise, and or awareness. Full stop. And another sentence start now. Unwittingly adding to the overuse of natural resources and environmental degradation. This is a typical example. I have so many. I just take this one, but don't worry, it's not from this group. When you say unwittingly adding to the overuse of natural resources and environmental degradation, where is the verb in that statement? And I remember because it was a face-to-face lecture last year when I was giving, I was talking about, I was using this. What I did last year, I asked students to send me their stuff, and I send it. I distribute it randomly to students. For a work from student A, I give it to student B to say go and read and comment on those statements. And the student was arguing very strongly against what I was saying. But what's wrong with that statement? Unwittingly adding to the overuse of natural resources and environment. How do you want me to understand what you are saying in that statement? And she said, oh no, it is actually complementary, right, to the first statement. But I said, you already put a full stop. You already put a full stop to the first statement. That sentence ends there. Unwittingly adding to the overuse of natural resources and environmental degradation, there's another statement. But if you put if it is after a full stop, it means this is a sentence on its own, and a sentence on its own must meet all the criteria to be a sentence. If you want it to be, if your idea is, oh, this is a logical flow, this is a continuation of whatever I was stating, don't put a full stop there into the first one. Don't put a full stop. Put a semicolon or something, or if you want to continue like this, put a linking word. Remember, I was talking about linking word. Put the linking word, saying something like, as a result, blah, 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 this will be adding to, then it becomes a sentence on its own. You don't write things like this in a report. And for some reason, students argue heavily, strongly against it. You know, like, no, this, you don't write, you don't, it doesn't matter the language you are speaking. You don't, without a verb, nobody will understand what a statement is. And the last point is check for typo. So many, so when you go to the, the document that I sent to, I uploaded on Blackboard, you will see a number of things that you must not do. You must, that was not for me. I got it from the literature, but I put in there. I hope you guys already read it. So my conclusion remark here is, yes, you are learning cool stuff. I see what Katarina posted, environmental risk assessment, environmental impact assessment, you have those knowledge. One thing is to have the knowledge, but another thing is to be able to convey the message in writing. So that's actually the whole aim of this discussion that I'm having here. Students rarely fail, right? But where they fail and where they struggle, if someone is complaining about question mark, punctuation, a sentence without a verb, and then you strongly believe, because that's how you've been writing, and someone was telling me that, oh, we are working for government, nobody ever check what we write. Yes, but maybe one day someone will check and people complain, especially if you are not the one writing proposal to get funding. Yes, you may get away with it, but if the day you will be the decision maker, then you will struggle if you have to write things, statement with, you have capital, small letters all together, there's no punctuation, there is and a statement without a verb. See, I'm coming back to statement without a verb because I see it a lot, and student does not seem to get the point that I want to make when in the student case like this, when you see a statement without the verb, but this is fine. This is the logical flow from, yes, it's the flow, but you already put a full stop. It's not, if you put it a full stop, you have a linking word to connect it to the previous statement and have at least a verb to tell the message. So this is the key point I want to highlight here. If you do have a question, you are very welcome to raise your question, and because I want it to be more discussion rather than anything else. So the floor is yours.
Doc,
Yes.
I wanted to know, like, what the expected length of the justification, like how should it be in terms of the length?
Yes, that's another question that I got from student. I usually refuse to give the number of words, the number of paragraph. Okay, I say 2 or 3 paragraphs for problem statement. It is something that it is an approach that I strongly believe is not the right approach. But what I believe on the other side, what I believe in is you defining your line of argument, what I call the trajectory of your argument. You define it, you say, okay, for me to to justify this problem, I have identified 5 points, 5 key points. If you can make those 5 key points, like ideas, 1 idea, 1 paragraph. If you can do that, then you're going to have 5 paragraphs. And those 5 paragraphs, in that section, something that I didn't say is, do not forget, I forgot to highlight in the presentation, do not forget to bring in some illustration, graphical illustration. If you do have tables, figures, images, those illustrations, they contribute strongly to the story, to you building the story. Do not forget to have tables, figures, graph, images to bring in. So to come back to your question, I wouldn't advise you to go beyond 5, 6 arguments, 7 paragraphs, sorry. But again, this will depend on the different point that you have decided to make. Something for sure, in that section, you must not limit yourself to one paragraph. Definitely not 1 paragraph, definitely not 2 paragraphs. Because the reason being that you cannot justify. Bear in mind that 1 paragraph, 1 argument, you're not going to justify a project just by using 1 argument, 1 and 1 only. No, it's not going to work. But if you have 10 arguments and you believe that those 10 arguments can be constructed in 10 different paragraphs, but why not? Of course, don't have 30 paragraphs.
So,
right. Yes.
So in other words, justification of the study is like a concise literature review.
I like the way you put it. It's a concise literature review. And the literature review, why concise? Because you're going to get rid of unnecessary knowledge from the literature that are not speaking directly to the project. In the dissertation itself, you have more room to do what you want, to give enough background information the way you see fit. You can provide that in the dissertations on. You have that's room to do that. But in a proposal, remember, you don't want a proposal of 30 pages or 50 pages. No, it's only a chapter on the dissertation. So I like the way you put it. It's a concise literature review, and those literature review must be the most relevant to the justification of your project. Of course, you bring in and before you do that, before you do your justification section, it means on a piece of paper you have already, so because you already identified the problem, and then you have a piece of paper where you have maybe some bullet point where you say, oh, my argument number one will be this one will follow, and this one will follow, and this one will be my last argument. Now, if you identify those points, now you ask now, what does the literature say on these different points? And it may happen that for you to justify, I mean, your first argument, maybe you will need 2 paragraphs. Maybe it will take you 2 paragraphs because you have so many relevant information for that particular point, and you feel like, no, this paragraph of mine has become too long. I think I can make it 2 paragraphs to build my case. Right. So don't go, it's not too much. Sometimes the reason why I'm very reserved, you could feel it in the way and in my presentation, you can feel it that sometimes students ask, oh, how many words? No, I'm not going to give you a number of words. If I say 10,000 words, then if I say 2,000 words, then you'll be like, oh, okay, you said 2,000 words, here's your 2,000 words. No. You say 5 paragraphs, but this is your 5 paragraph. No. The content matters, not the volume. The content matters, not the volume. Just know that the first point must be a quick background, right? If I say two paragraphs, or I say 1 paragraph, and your paragraph is all about the background information, but you're not justifying anything. That point is very important. You may feel like to justify 1 point, to build a case for my first argument, I need 2 paragraphs, not 1. It's up to you. But don't have 20 paragraphs, don't have 100 paragraphs. I hope my answer helped.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other points? Camo, you want to say something? Camo, hello? Katarina?
No, I'm good, thank you.
So if there is no other point, if no one has any other point apart from Sunny, so that would be the end. That would be it for me, from my side.
Doc?
Yes?
Doc, can I please ask, what like I've seen some writers who would quote somebody who has been quoted by another author.
Give it 2 seconds.
Like
My battery is give it 2 seconds. My battery is dying. I just want to connect to the power. 2 seconds.
Okay, all right.
So it looked like the connection. I don't know. The connection is not working. So my battery was died.
It's 11 hours.
Any time from now. Can you please ask your question again when I'm busy?
Yes, I wanted to get a clarity. You find writers, authors who would say, Katharina 2020 is quoted by.
No, avoid that. No, avoid that. Avoid that, please. Go use the original source.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
original source of information. If you do that, it means if I'm reading your report and I see that you've been lazy, why are you when Katarina quotes somebody as quoted by somebody, then no. Avoid writing like that. Katarina as quoted by, no. Go to the source. Use the main source of information. That's
Okay,
fine.
thank you, Doc.
Okay. So if there is no other question, I think I'm not sure if I'll be able to, because my battery is dead and the connection is not to the power is not working. So that will be it for my side. I know you have class with Rampedi. You must enjoy it. And don't forget to start discussing with your supervisor if you haven't started concerning your project. Please don't forget that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, bro.
Thank you,
Pardon?
Doc.
Okay, thank you very much. And
Please remember to share the recording.
yes, for the that's what I'm worried about now. I want to stop quickly because the battery is dying.
Yeah, we have to stop so that it gives you time to
Yeah.
put together the recording.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Doc.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you very
everyone.
much.
Bye.
Have a good day.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye.